Hello, everyone. How's it going? Okay, we can do better than that. How's it going? There we go. It's South by. I know people are tired. You're probably out late at night at the concerts, or maybe you're just getting in. But regardless, we're happy you're here today. My name is Joel Burvell. I am a newly graduated doctor, but I'm better known on social media as a medical mythbuster for creating videos about health inequities that exist in the medical field. But today, I'm really excited to be hosting this conversation with one of my really good friends, Royal Ramey. I have to tell a quick story about how we met. But we met a year ago, actually, almost to the day now, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Where we were both TED Fellows, and I heard about the amazing work that Royal's doing, which is what we're going to jump into a little bit today. But to preset the conversation so you know what we're talking about, and you've probably seen it a little bit in the description, in January 2025, this year, there were fires that happened in LA that ravaged the city, as many people know. And I think a part of that, one of the narratives that came out that people started to realize is that since the 1940s, incarcerated folks have actually been fighting fires at the front lines for little pay. And it was a narrative that many people didn't know. And just by a show of hands, how many people knew that before January 2025? So only like 4 or 5 people. I think that was a pretty common sentiment. But Royal, who was formerly incarcerated, when he came out of prison, he went and created the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program to try and help the next generation of firefighters be recruited when there's a shortage right now. So, Royal, I did a little bit of an intro, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
So I was born in actually in Houston, Texas. My mom left Texas when I was 1 year old. So I'm kind of a SoCal resident, and I end up growing up in the San Fernando Valley, and I have a wife. I have 2 kids, 2 beautiful kids, 14 and 12. And we reside in San Bernardino County.
Awesome. Well, we're going to jump more into his story, but I think for now we can roll the video that we have of your upcoming documentary.
Yes.
Since World War II, there's been a growing reliance for imprisoned people to do some of the grunt work of firefighting.
We were both formerly incarcerated in fire camp. We got out. We were dedicated to become firefighters.
I fell in love with it, but I didn't have a blueprint. I was just lost.
I love that scream at the end.
Right.
But I think just for the audience, can you walk us through a little bit about what fire camp is, how it works, and even how you found out about it in the first place?
So fire camp, so like you said earlier about, California utilizing incarcerated people to fight wildfires, right? And they have a volunteer program. It's about 35 camps throughout the criminal justice system. And you pretty much, being able to, train folks at a 2-week kind of like program where they get like classroom training, they get physical training, and then they have an opportunity to go to the fire camps. It's really more of a dormitory setting, and you can be able to, have visits in a park-like setting. It's obviously, like you said, better pay, better food, and they dangle that carrot in front of your face and saying, like, you have the opportunity, right, to go out and be in the community, not being in a cell, right? And it's a better, definitely, situation, but it's definitely put yourself in a position where, you're pretty much risking your life, and, you out there fighting fires, you're pretty much on the front lines, and it's really, it's hard work, definitely.
Yeah. Can you take us back to that first moment where you found out about fire camps? Like, this is 2012, is that correct, or later?
Yeah, 2012, you're right.
2012. Take us back to that moment. How did you find out about it? And then what's the next steps that you actually take to join into fire camp?
So it's crazy. I remember I was actually reading a Sports Illustrated magazine with John Wall, and I was just like reading that, and then I got a knock on the door when I was in a prison cell, and it was like, oh, you have your annual review is up, get dressed and come to the office. So I ended up going to the office, and they said, like, look, Royal, you actually, you qualify for fire camp. You actually, you from a level 3 position, because like it's multiple different prison statuses, right? Or custody statuses when you in prison. So it's level 1 is the lowest, and then 4 is the highest. So they was like, yeah, you were level 3 to level 2, and you eligible for fire camp. Do you want to, volunteer to go? And I'm like, what is fire camp, right? Yeah. So I was like, can I get a couple minutes to, or at least a day to, talk to my family and let them know what the deal is, right? So I ended up talking to my mom, and she was like, boy, I haven't seen you in, years, because I ended up going to Mississippi, and they transferred me because it was overcrowded at that time. But then when I was talking to some folks that was in, that been in prison, in fire camp, and they was like, man, like, it's better food, it's better, it's all the amenities, right? But it didn't tell me about actually what you're gonna be doing in fire camp.
So like, what did you think you were gonna be doing? Is like, I know you're on Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart kind of joked. He's like, did you think you were like gonna be around like making s'mores, around like a campfire? Like, what did you actually think was gonna be happening in fire camp before you went?
Honestly, I had no clue. I just heard all the great things about it, but I actually didn't know exactly what I would be doing. And when I realized, like, you're going to be out there in the front lines fighting wildland fires, I was like, man, like, this is crazy. I don't know, like, people were, like, everybody's running from, fighting, or just from fires, right? Yeah. Me, like, us going into the danger zone and actually fighting fires is, like, the opposite, right?
So you're, like, watching everyone run away, and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be going towards it now. Like, it's the opposite.
Right. It was crazy, and it was definitely the interesting experience. Like, when I first got there, I'm a guy, that, I'm used to wearing Nikes and Jordans, right? They give you some boots when you, you get there. They give you this pack, like, and these are like the equipment and the PPE. And then when you're not fighting fires, you're actually doing field mitigation projects. So you got, you have a saw, and you got all this equipment and these tools, and you out there, even doing the preventative work of it. And it's a lot, it's taxing, it's physical. It tested me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, like, and it really, challenged me, and I grew to love it. And, I wanted to pursue it as a career. Yeah. And that's when my co-founder, Brandon Smith, and I, we met, and we came together to try to help, start FFRP.
And Brandon's in the room, right? Where,
yeah.
Can you raise his hand just so we see him? Where is he? There he is. Brandon's in the room. So that's the co-founder right there.
Right.
So that's amazing. And you've mentioned how physically taxing, how mentally taxing this is. What kind of training do you get before you actually join fire camp? You also mentioned all this PPE you're having to do. You're also having to lug around all this equipment. You have to learn the names of things. How long was that training? Did you feel like it was adequate? Or was most of it actually on the ground when you're out there fighting these fires?
So just being transparent and real, like, even in the professional realm, like, you only get like a couple of weeks of training, right? Mm-hmm. But when I was in prison, and you do call it PFT, the physical fitness training. Mm-hmm. So you do a week of that, and then you do a week of the in-class training, and then you're ready to go. You pretty much wait and sit to be to go to a fire camp. One of the 35 camps that they have right now today.
Wow. And these camps are not just in California, correct? There are 16 different states? Or
yes, there's multiple different states. I think it's like at least 14, 15 states that utilize incarcerated people to fight wildfires.
Wow. And so what are some misconceptions that people may have about fire camps and the individuals who serve in it?
Misconceptions. So most people think that, you get, time off, and that's like only the benefit of it. But like I said earlier, you get better food. Obviously, you even get better paid. Like, if you imagine $1 an hour when you fight wildland fires, that's like the most highest paid incarcerated person when they out there, like, doing any type of program in CDCR. And also it's a dormitory setting. You have to.
I want to make sure to repeat that. I don't know if people missed it. $1 an hour is what they get paid when that's the highest pay you can get when you're incarcerated doing a job. In $1 an hour. You kind of just brushed over that, but for me, I'm just like stuck there. And so, like, and you're out there for how many hours a day?
So you do 24-hour shifts, do 24 hours on, 24 hours off. It's definitely physically and mentally taxing. And, compared to, a person that's out there doing it professionally, it could be from 60 to 100K a year, benefits, retirement, and all that good stuff. So.
And you're getting paid, what, $24 a day? If you're doing working 24 hours straight. Yeah,
plus you get, like, I don't know, depending on your position on the crew, it's like $1 to $5 a day additional, just because when you're doing, like, like fury mitigation projects, like you get that additional pay. So it could be roughly pretty little less than like $30 a day.
Yeah. How is that thought about within people that are in kind of prison thinking about fire camp? Does it feel normal? Does it feel abnormal? Does it feel like you want to be paid more? Or I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I'm curious if you can like highlight how it's thought about amongst your peers.
Yeah, sadly, when you say you got, the best paying job in CDCR, you get better food. You actually, because California don't have like weights in different prisons, so you got access to weights. The park like setting when it comes to visiting, right? When your family, they could bring food. You in a dormitory setting, you're not in a cell. You actually like can be able to move and walk free. So it's like those different amenities pretty much play a big part on how folks view it. And it's not like obviously you don't even thinking about doing it professionally. It's just like an avenue to be able to just like be in the community more because you're not locked up, right? So when you're not fighting fires, you're doing field mitigation projects throughout the community. And you feel like you're a part of the society, right? So I think that's the thing that's like the plus. But when folks, now that the LA fires come into the media, a frenzy had, at least pushed out when it comes to incarcerated firefighters, it really shows that, folks that have the ability to actually make a family-winning career, it's the contrast, right? And I think that's where a lot of the push with, being able to get, more pay and all these different amenities when it comes to, folks that's incarcerated.
Absolutely. I kind of want to go back to the fire camps to actually get a good idea of what you're actually doing out there. You mentioned that you're doing field mitigation when you're not fighting fires. Mm-hmm. What does it look like when you actually are fighting a wildfire? Can you walk us through that experience for, I'm assuming no one here has fought a wildfire before. I could be wrong. But can you walk us through that experience, what it's like?
So one thing that is kind of like puzzling and just like mind-boggling a little bit for me is that, folks that's in fire camp actually are considered a type 1 hand crew, which means that they are considered equal to a hotshot crew, right? Meaning like you can go out there and do direct handline construction, right? When it's like right there with the fire, so like in the front lines, and you pretty much under the supervision of the captain and his credentials. So it's like you're pretty much doing exactly the same thing a paid professional crew will be doing, right? Like you even a superior of a type 2 hand crew that the Forest Service use right to do mop up stages. And I know it's probably like more technical stuff, and I know Brandon's gonna get on me about that, but it's really simple as far as just like you actually can be able to like do a lot of the things that professional firefighters do.
And you mentioned to me, like personally, how dangerous it was. Mm-hmm. Are you able to talk about any stories about a time that happened, or like when you actually feared for your life? And we don't have to. I know I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Ooh, yeah, I was in a couple of spots for sure. I remember being on a fire. I'm just say that, and it was really sticky. It was like a wall of fire just coming towards us. And it wasn't going this like extremely quick, but you could tell that if we didn't move at a certain time, then it would have been really it would have been casualties for sure. And that's where like I really when it comes to this training piece and understanding like what you put yourself into, I can attest to that it is dangerous. I know a lot of some folks that's been incarcerated have perished in fires. And I think that's where I could talk to you a little bit about like some bills that's coming through that FFRP supports to be able to help folks being able to mitigate those type of things.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you didn't know about what was in fire camp when you first signed up. What's one thing that you wish you had known before you went into fire camp? And would you have done it if you knew what fire camp was like?
Absolutely not. I would have never done it. We say, oh, you're going to be going out here and risk your life for $1 an hour and not having a true pathway coming home. Like, obviously, that's something that I definitely would have done. And then it's just hard work, right? It's hard work. You got those 24-hour shifts, right? And honestly, I would have been like, it's not worth it. Like, it's not even worth it, But when I was in prison, you know, when I was talking to some folks, they told me all the pros to it, but never told me the cons of like actually what you will be actually doing in trading those Jordans and Nikes for those boots.
So I kind of want to move on then to what happens after fire camp, like you mentioned. So after fire camp, you were out of prison in what, 2016 around there, 2017 or?
2014.
2014. Okay. So what happens after fire camp? You leave prison. You've been in fire camp. You've gotten all this training. What comes next?
Yeah, it was definitely a struggle trying to figure out, you know, the clear pathway to be able to transition into the fire service professionally. I ended up talking to a brother. He was actually on the hot shot crew in the San Bernardino National Forest, and he gave me some nuggets as far as like what academy to go to, and he said he'd help me with the resume and help me apply. And then from there, you know, me and my co-founder Brandon Smith, we talked. And we was like, look, we're going to go to this academy, and we're gonna do our thing. And then once we make that happen, then we wanted to, you know, liberate other folks, right? That was in fire camp, and being able to give them the opportunity to pursue it as a career as well. And when our first fire that we was on, I'll never forget coming to base camp, because you have a base camp. It's kind of like a city within the city when it comes to firefighting. We saw our old crew there, and when they seen us, it was like, man, you said you was gonna do this when you was in camp. And we saw our like CEOs, and we was, you know, talking to folks, and it was like, look, we gonna come to the camp. And that's when like the spark of our organization when we started and stuff, and that's where it led to that. But honestly, like it was really difficult. You know, it was I think it was like almost like summer of 2020 or 2015 that we really actually kind of knew the steps and being able to happen. But for the most part, like folks coming home with $200 gate money, like with all this knowledge, skills, and abilities, right, from fire camp, but don't really have a true direction, right, of like how to apply. Yeah. And then secretly though, Cal Fire has been hiring folks that came out of camp, you know, in sprinkles, right? Like you have a captain that like, you know, take you under wing and being able to like give you direction and being able to help you out. But like it's never been something that's been broadcast, right? Formalized and broadcast to say, look, this is an opportunity for you to be able to change your life.
Yeah, and so FFRP was kind of that solution for it, right? To be able to have some type of organization where someone comes out with, like you said, all these skills that you've gained from literally working 24-hour shifts and like risking your life every single day, but having no pathway forward. What were some of the biggest barriers that you found when you came out trying to find kind of this first job once you knew that you wanted to be a firefighter and wanted to use these skills?
I think the biggest barrier is like the stigma, right? The fire culture is more, you know, public service and, you know, prison don't mix, right? You know, you coming from a public nuisance to a public servant, and it's like a 180, right? Zero to a hero. And a lot of folks obviously don't consider folks that's been incarcerated as a public servant. So I think that's one of the biggest things when you apply, when you put on a resume. At least when me and Brandon, when we applied, we had to fill out a OF 306 that explains, you know, the situation, and we had to like finesse it, right? And it was really literally
that was before Ban the Box, right? Or
yes,
okay.
Yes, it was. And it was like, you know, I'm thinking about, bro, like how we gonna figure it out? Like how we gonna, you know, craft a story to say like, look, yeah, this happened, but then also this is what I'm doing today. You know, I learned from my mistakes. I have gained these skills, and I really want to pursue this as a career, and I'm serious about it, and I wanted to make this a long-term career, and I'll be an asset to not only just, you know, the fire service, but even in my community.
Yeah, and I think about this a lot. I mean, you've also talked about recidivism rate for people that actually do get jobs. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, so for our organization, the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program, so 90% of our participants, when they graduate, they have a job in the forestry or fire sector. The recidivism rate is 10% compared to the state's 42%. Wow. Which, you know, that's obviously a big deal. And I'm proud to say that we actually have graduated 311 people in our program. And definitely proud. And if you look at the numbers, numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see folks transition and really take it serious. And obviously we offer not only just the training program, but some wraparound services as well, expungement, some things I could touch on a little bit later, and then social services work, financial literacy, and all those things that really get folks to really understand the importance of transitioning their lives. And
yeah, I mean, because when you're literally transitioning back into everyday life, it's not just about finding a job. It's about finding out how do you deal with a new system, right? And like you said, something as simple as getting your resume out there or being able to explain a gap on that resume in a way that allows you to be able to still get that job and show and highlight your skills. Like those are all conversations we don't often have, but what helps to reduce the recidivism rate and what you're doing with FFRP isn't just about training firefighters, it's changing minds, right, and changing lives, which I think is so incredible. And I know there's also licensing and certification things that can be barriers as well. Can you talk about a little bit of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest challenges when it comes to not only just wildland firefighter, but just being a firefighter as a whole, is that we have this EMT certification licensure where you have to, if you have more than one felony on your record or one or more felonies on your record, then you can't get the EMT. And it depends on like the location, right? So you have a lot of folks that's been in the urban community, right? That comes from the marginalized communities, and if they don't, have that EMT, then it puts them in a position where they have to like go into remote areas, like way far from their families, right? To be able to get just a job that they can be able to, work for a CAL FIRE, right, in the San Bernardino area or the Riverside. And those are the challenges that you definitely have. But one of the things that we try to combat with that is the AB 2147 bill, which Governor Gavin Newsom for California passed in January 1, 2021, that states that anybody that comes out of California conservation camps, they can actually get their record expunged at the judge's discretion. And ourselves and one of our partners, Legal Aid of Los Angeles, they have been spearheading that. And then today we helped 56 people get their record expunged.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's not just helping short term, right? That's something that, let's say they don't want to be a firefighter anymore. That can help them down the line as they transition into different parts of society, different parts of life, building a career, building a family, all that kind of stuff is huge. And I'm glad that you brought up policy. I'm curious, are there other policies that you've seen or that you're hoping for that could help firefighters? I think this one's an interesting one because expunging records maybe wasn't something that was the first in my mind, right? But then you start thinking about all the downstream effects that can have in terms of how it can positively impact a person's life. So are there other policies that are out there right now that are being talked about that you're aware of that you can share with us?
Definitely a lot to talk about. Since the LA fires, right? It's been so many different assembly members that have been reaching out to us. It's a couple that I'm really supportive and I'm really happy to talk about. Which would give CDCR or even a CAL FIRE captain the ability to get a person that's incarcerated resentenced 120 days, before they're released, to be able to help them come home, which Assembly Member Josh Lowenthal is pushing out, which I support. We have, I think, another one is around death benefits if somebody were to, pass away. And it's like about a couple of other bills that we kind of like evaluating and seeing. And I think that's where us as subject matter experts in this field to be able to talk about, what things that we can actually do to help folks, come home and be successful with their forestry or fire career.
Absolutely, and bringing in that personal experience so that people understand that this isn't just a number or something that is fiction, it's real lives that are at play right now. I'm so curious about also just kind of like where you see FFRP going when it comes to policy. Are you guys trying to be those policy experts and testifying and making those changes, or where do you fit into? Because you're not only training, but where do you fit into that policy side of actually making systemic change?
It's funny because my co-founder Brendan Smith, he's really one of those guys of making sure that we push that forward. But I think as a collective group, we're thinking about how to be more of an advocate because we boots on the ground. We've been so focused on just training folks and transitioning folks into the careers, but we know that it's very important for us to advocate for our people to be able to give them more, change. And that's where just talking to these assembly members, bringing them to the table and letting them know that we grassroots, we have the lived experience, we have the ability to evaluate, any bill that comes across their desk and be able to put real input because, we've been there and done that, but our voice matters. Yeah. And I think that's where we kind of leaning more into. And we have another partner, MM20, that's been really vocal around, the expertise in that and bringing us to the table. And I think that's something that like CBOs, community-based organizations, sometimes struggle with or not have the opportunity to do. And it's kind of touchy because of lobbying and all that type of stuff. But I think just being able to testify right on behalf of the folks, we definitely I'm all in on it now. Like now being the CEO of the organization, like it's time for us to really have our voice, and this is a moment where we can really make change and move forward.
Absolutely. So what's some of the work that you're doing now in terms of with your partners on the ground to make change? What's coming next?
Yeah, so I'm talking to a lot of folks right now. I'm gonna be in Sacramento. We actually, I know this is, I don't know, Matt Diaz. He might kind of kill me for this, but I think he got something approved where our documentary, Firebreak, is probably gonna get shown at the Capitol. Because I think one of the things for us as a small, community-based organization is that we never been out there. Like, we are 501c3 that just being, like I said, being just like focused on the work, but now actually getting ourselves out there to the world and letting folks know like we exist and we have the ability to talk about these things and understand the different dynamics. And it's a lot that comes with it, right? Like when you think about transition a person from incarceration to society, right? Like it's a lot of housing and stable housing, reliable transportation piece. You got the mental health and services piece that you have to do. Obviously, you got certifications, right, that you have to do. And even getting folks paid, right, while they're in training. Like, it's so many different elements to be able to get a person to a place where they can be successful. And my biggest thing is, like, investing in people, right, investing in the person. Because you'd be surprised of, like, how many people want to get that chance, that second chance, or even that opportunity to prove themselves because they feel valued. They feel that like they have what it takes to make it happen. It's just they need that mentorship. They need that support to be able to help them transition over. And we have a wait list over almost 400 plus people. Wow. Like it's just, and we only train about 100 people a year. Wow. We train 50 people in the Bay Area, in Northern California, and then also in Southern California, in San Bernardino and LA. So like that's something that we definitely can be able to bring to the table just based off of our experience and, and our value in the space.
Absolutely. I'm so glad it's getting more attention. It's of course sad that it took the LA fires in order to kind of have this raised up. But I mean, in the past few months, you've kind of been on a speaking tour, on a media circuit. You were on Jon Stewart, The Daily Show. Right. Check that out. It was a really great interview. You were on the Jennifer Hudson Show. You were on Club Shay Shay. So thankfully, a lot of people are getting a kind of a little bit more of an understanding of the problem and the solutions. Where do you think people are getting it right? Where are they getting it wrong right now when they hear about what's happening? And when they want to come kind of partner alongside you?
It sucks to say, but just being transparent is to listen, right? Listen to like what we got going on and what it is. Because I think some things, like for example, you got bills that's out there that's just like focused on certifications, and it's like, okay, that's one piece. And actually, our organization have that ability to be able to give them certifications, right? I know that when they're in prison, they should have the certifications once they come home, but it's all these other different things that need to be in play. And that's where talking to different partners around, what's the real issue when it comes to like helping folks transition. And I think the piece is that it's complex, right? And we got to really understand the importance of buy-in, knowing that it's going to probably take a little while for folks to maybe even transition. And I think it's important that they know, like, everybody's different. Everybody has their own, trauma, things that they deal with, right? Yep. And we got to have, the power of, redemption, mercy, and grace is real. And I think that we definitely have a shortage, right? Like you said earlier about wildland firefighting, and it's a need, and I was just talking to Cal Fire last week, and they want to hire about 2,400 firefighters in the next 5 years, which is like what 480 firefighters, and I think that's one of the things that we only train about 100, and this issue is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be here for a while, and we got to be able to evaluate all the different levels of making it happen, and I think that we one of the solutions to the problem.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we haven't even mentioned is climate change, right? And so these types of problems are unfortunately going to become more and more frequent as time goes on. We already have a firefighter shortage. We have a pool of qualified individuals that are in fire camps that can actually be serving the problem. And so making sure that we match those. And so great hearing that Cal Fire is wanting to hire more, but then the infrastructure needs to be there. And that's why we need more to support you more. So if there's any funders out there, support the work that Royal is doing, because it's really securing our future and for all of our futures, not just in places like LA, but I mean, there was fires in, was it North Carolina not too long ago?
Yep.
And so they're becoming more frequent everywhere right now. I'm curious, other than, what are the fire departments that are kind of leading the way when it comes to hiring individuals, hiring folks from fire camps?
So I'm proud to say that FFRP and CAL FIRE has a partnership, I can say. We actually have a grant with them. It's a $3.7 million grant that we received in 2022. It goes into 2026. And they've been really, really proactive in hiring folks that's been incarcerated in California conservation camps. And like I said, back in the day, they've been doing this since probably the 60s and the 70s, right? But it was sprinkled. Now that it's been something that the governor has really been pushing, they've been adapting and being more receptive to making that happen. And I'm just proud. Like for example, like I just looked at this the other day. We have 50 people through our program. Out of the 311 people, actually 50 people actually work for CAL FIRE right now.
Wow.
Which is amazing, and that's where you get a career that's like from 60 to 100K a year, with benefits retirement, and that's life changing when you think about a person that been in the urban community, right? Probably like the first or second job they ever had, and probably been a black sheep of their family, and CAL FIRE has been a leading folks that's really been pushing that level, but also we have folks that's like the U.S. Forest Service that have been hiring me. They gave me my first chance, right? Me being, just fresh out of prison within a year or so, and giving me an opportunity. And shout out to Betty Ash, black woman chief, that she actually gave me and Brandon an opportunity to, work with the Forest Service and gave us our start. And so those are the two entities or fire agencies that's been really being proactive in that. And then also you have private like fire crews, insurance companies that have a forestry kind of like fire wildland division that they hire folks to be able to do some mitigation work as well. But I think it's been more prevalent, and folks know the importance and the value of folks that's been incarcerated in fire camp and what skills that they bring. It's just that the stigma around can they come on time, can they continue to work, or when it comes to just being incorporated into society where they look at as a public servant. So
Can you share some of the success stories of individuals? I know you have 300 plus people that you've graduated, which is incredible, like truly.
Right.
Can you share some of those success stories? Is there one that comes to mind? Or even I know there was some talk about some of the individuals that had graduated from your program that were fighting fires in LA. I know there was one that his own family lost their home too, and so his grandparents did.
Yeah, so I can talk about Jacob Hillstock. Actually, he wasn't actually incarcerated, and that's another thing too about our organization. We also help folks that's been in marginalized communities, right? That's just as impacted. But out of the 311 folks, we could definitely I could give you multiple to the folks. I got one in particular. His name is Brandon Smith, just like my co-founder. Actually, I was in juvenile hall with him when I was younger, and I seen his growth, right? I actually seen him in prison as well, and I remember getting a call from him. It's like, bro, I see you on this Facebook thread, and then heard you got this nonprofit. Like, what you fighting fires now? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I got a, organization. He's like, okay. He was like, hey, can I sign up? I said, look, you can sign up, but you can't, talk about our past and all that, right? And what we've been through together, right? And he came in. He was really humbled and really wanted to change his life. And he ended up working with the San Bernardino National Forest. Was on the Del Rosa Hot Shots. Actually, now he actually works for Cal Fire. Loved their brother to death. Got a wife, and he probably gonna be mad at me, but it's like, I don't know, he got like 3 or 4 or 5 kids now. He just keep popping them out. But yeah, he really, cause I've known him since I was 17 years old, and for him to want to change and have the fire camp experience and say, look, I feel the same way you felt when when you was in there and we had those deep conversations. And now he cause he was in cohort 2. We on cohort 6 right now. And just to see his family and to see him being successful, him pulling up to my house, offering, yeah, I can cut your trees, trim your trees for you and all that good stuff. I'm like, man, this dude is just, it's just amazing. And now I can ask him to borrow $20. And maybe give me a steak dinner or something if I need something.
Exactly. I think there's something in there that you said that was so powerful too, and it's that he saw you on a Facebook thread, right? And I think one of the things that inspires me about you as well is you're changing the narrative of what it means to get second chances. Not everyone has an opportunity to get a second chance, and you've ran with yours, and you're showing other people what they can do with their second chance too. And how does that sit with you? Do you sit back and think about that you're literally inspiring the next generation, giving people a hope for what is possible in the future?
Honestly, I'm so into the work that I don't even think about the other stuff. Some people say, oh, you famous, you're a celebrity now, and I'm like, bro, I'm not none of that. I'm Royal Ramey. I'm a person. I love my community. I want to see the best for everybody, and I want to do the right thing, because when I was younger, I was a firecracker. I wanted to, I made some mistakes when I was younger, but I really want to pay it forward. And I think that's important for me to be able to utilize my platform and utilize the skills, knowledge, and abilities that I have to be able to help folks transition and be a mentor and really just be a community member. Because at the end of the day, we all have a limited time in life, right? I want to be remembered as a person that really, pushed the envelope as far as, what's right, and, doing the things that I know that I can control, and just paying it forward. And it's kind of surreal, because we didn't expect the LA fires to blow up. I wasn't expecting to have this media frenzy. It was a time where, I was even thinking about all right, we might have to downsize the organization just because of the lack of funding. And, me and Brandon always talk about we always trying to work ourselves out of a job, and we trying to figure out a way to continue to support folks. But it's just humbling. It's just being able to have that platform to be able to help folks out. And I remember making a decision of leaving Cal Fire, because I worked so hard to get to the Forest Service, worked hard to get to Cal Fire. And it was a moment where we had got some funding, about $1 million just to start our program. And I had to make a decision, and I did, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna see how this works out. Yeah. But when you in this, when you in the stuff, right? You in the grind, and you're trying to figure it out, and obviously try to scale and grow. We definitely have a lot of supporters and funders that have been helping us out, but obviously it wasn't sexy, right? Yeah. Before that time, a couple of funders was like, I don't know if that's gonna work, but now that this, the LA fires actually came about, it really showed how valuable we are as an organization and what, support we need in being able to make it happen. So I just want to say shout out to all the individual donors, all the people that support during this time, but we definitely continue to need that support, because I feel like we are actually making a difference. And I think one thing I want to say too real quick that's important. So the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program is an intersection between 3 things, real key things, right? It's the workforce development piece, the criminal justice reform, right? And then also the climate crisis. And something that we're trying to do is we're trying to build our Buffalo hand crew, actually be a hand crew that can be able to support not only just fire suppression, but fire fuel mitigation projects throughout the state and even the nation year round, so we can be able to combat the wildfires that's around, right? Like, you know, I was talking to Brandon just recently around, you know, what can we do as an organization to be able to, you know, solve the problem when it comes to wildland firefight or wildland the crisis, and it's really around doing the fuel mitigation work.
Yep.
And if we can be able to take some of the folks that's been in our career training program to go out to certain areas that's fire prone to remove some of those fuels, then we can be able to, you know, reduce the reduction of it. So it's like different things that we've been talking about, and then also partner up with like CAL FIRE and trying to talk to local fire departments to be able to do some of this work, so they have an ingress and egress when it comes to going to certain areas that they can protect certain homes and be more proactive in the fight instead of being more reactive and waiting for things to happen.
Absolutely. That's such a powerful answer. We're going to be opening up to questions pretty soon in about 3 to 4 minutes. So I'm gonna, if you have questions, Slido is where you can be asking them in the app. So feel free to, and they'll pull up on here. But I want to ask, if you could have any policy change, what would be the one policy that you change that could benefit kind of the fight that you're working on right now?
Oh, so a couple come to mind. Like you were saying, it's funny that you said ban the boxes. I know you did your research, right? So one thing that I would love to happen and bring back is that if we could get preference points for folks when they apply to the CAL FIRE or even the Forest Service. If you've been incarcerated in fire camp, you should have preference points, right? When you're in your application, it should be a plus instead of a negative. I think that's one big thing. And then another thing, to get, so AB 2147, it allows folks, right, to get their record expunged, but it's to the judge's discretion.
Yeah.
I think it should be automatic, right? Like if you go and risk your life for $1 an hour for, you know, 6 months, a year, 18 months, 24 months, we actually being more proactive and being able to get them their record expunged based, it could be, you know, once they're off probation or parole, so they can prove themselves, right? And then once they get that done, then they don't have to worry about, right, their record when they talk about, you know, whatever they want to pursue and make happy. Because to be honest with you, you know, you have folks that's, you know, 40 years old that actually go out there and fight fires, and when, you know, and they do it for a couple of years, and the body takes a toll on the body, right? Yeah. So I think they should have the opportunity to go and, you know, start their life over and, you know, to pursue any type of career they want to without having to worry about their record.
Absolutely. And before jumping to the questions, I want to ask, if there is one thing you want to leave this audience with, what is it?
Whoa, that boy put me on the spot. I think I said it earlier, you know, the power of redemption and mercy is real. Second chances is real. And we gotta break down the stigma around incarcerated people as a whole, that they're just another number and they don't have the capability of changing their lives, and they should just get thrown to the wayside, right? I think this is untapped talent that folks have. I think some of the smartest, and I'm gonna be funny right now, but folks that's, you know, maybe been drug dealers, you know, or some of the best business, you know, people, right? When it comes to dealing with money, and, you know, it's a lot of people that I ran across that gave me so much wisdom and knowledge around being able to transform my life to where it is today. And they're so brilliant. They got brilliant minds. It's just really the support around being able to help them transition and being able to focus on a direction. And one thought too is, like, when most people come home from prison, they actually come home with only $200, you know, gate money. Wow. And then, you know, but we expect them to go out here and just conquer the world and be rehabilitated without giving them any resources and tools to be successful. And it's just like unfair, and it doesn't make sense. And, you know, the stigma has, you know, the whole mass incarceration has been something that, you know, folks understand and know. I hope they do their history around how all that transpired. And, you know, obviously systemic racism is a real thing, and we need to figure out how to change that narrative around, folks, not only just black folks, but just, people of color are only good for certain things. And I think that's where, when I was a little kid, it was either being an entertainer of some sort or to be in the streets to be successful. Yeah. And I think we don't talk about you being a doctor, right? Yeah. You have the opportunity to do that. You could be a teacher. You could be even a police officer. You can be a lawyer, right? Like, we got to get that stigma thing, because that's where I think it's hurting the country. And we got to, like, come together as a whole and really realize the value of all the different races, cultures that's been here, that's been really contributed to the United States of America, and being able to just come together as a whole and really focus on the things that the value of us as a whole.
Yeah, you're trying to do storytelling too through documentaries, and so can you tell us about the documentary you're working on? Maybe if we could throw up on the screen the QR code, you can explain that a little bit.
Yes. We got approached by a media company. It's called Blue Chalk Media. Shout out to Kenzie and Chris. Those are my folks. And I was thinking about 2021, 2022. And, they was like, hey, Royal, you doing some good work. Like, we want to, just, film, just to watch you do your thing and just film you. And I was like, all right, cool. But I was kind of apprehensive at first, because there was a lot of media stuff. Folks was trying to film us and stuff. But I really felt a great connection with them, and the genuineness of them wanting us to really tell our story in an authentic way. And we I think we stopped filming in 2024 or beginning of 2024, and we've been in the film festival circuit for a while now, and it's been blowing up. I know. Shout out to the Obamas. They shouted out about the film and what we've been doing. And we've been, just getting booked with the film festival circuit. So I'm excited. If you, want to go and check it out, we're going to be in D.C. at the end of March. I know I'm going to be in Michigan sometime soon, like in April, and then I think also in Portland, around in where you at or whatever. So this is dope, man. This is really, I think when you watch the film, you really understand different sides of us, me and my co-founder, but also seeing the journeys of the participants. Yeah. I think that's something that I think is mind-blowing, is electric. You got different, just make sure you got some tissue, because you definitely might cry. But just knowing the work ethic and the time that folks put into this, and we the real deal. It's serious. So. Yeah.
And so when they go to this QR code, where does it take them to?
I take them to a website, to Blue Chalk Media, and just give them like a little. I think they give them some updates on like where the next film festival is. We kind of in a circuit of trying to get a distributor and stuff like that when it comes to streaming and stuff. So
if
hopefully,
there's a streamer out there, you heard it here first. Trying to get a deal over here.
Right.
Could be the next big thing.
Right.
It is the next big thing already. So.
Yeah, just trying to figure that out, and I'm just happy and excited, man. I'm so blessed and honored. Actually, you being one of my good friends, and when I met you, it was just like we clicked immediately, and just giving us giving the platform, because I know you've been doing your thing for a while, and even just mentoring me in the social media field, right? Giving me some pointers and stuff. So I couldn't have done this without you. It was like you was the first person that I thought about. So no, I just appreciate you for giving us or just coming and being with me on the stage, and I appreciate you, brother. I love you, man, and thank you.
Love you too, man. Well, we still have some questions, though.
Right.
So we'll go back to the questions really quickly. I see one that says, what can we do to put pressure on politicians to raise the amount of pay and improve the pathways after fire camp?
That's actually a great question.
And that's from Meredith, I should say.
Meredith, that's a great question. Actually, we applying pressure now. I'm in the process of talking to a lot of assembly members around that pay stuff. So the pay thing, I think, is one piece of it, right? I do believe that incarcerated people or incarcerated firefighters should deserve more than $1 an hour. But what I think, though, is that they might get to a place where they think that, all right, say if we give them $20 an hour fighting fire, but my biggest thing is, like, once they come home, then what? like it's really the long-term game too that we got to think about, because like that's where, you know, me and Brandon is in that space. Even with certifications, like, oh, they need certifications to do it, but like, you know, there's a lot to certifications. You know, you get the certifications, then you know, you got to build a resume, right? You got the application process is vicious, right? When it comes to the state and federal government, you know, folks need reliable transportation. Folks need housing. Some folks need mental health services, right? Because they've been through a lot of trauma in their life. So it's multiple different levels of what that may look like. And you know, I think that's one thing that I think Kim Kardashian, you know, she pushed out as far as, you know, increase the pay. I think that's one element of like the solution, but we need to talk about those other things as well.
Yeah. So another question that says, what specific skills do incarcerated firefighters gain through the fire camp program? And are they recognized in the broader firefighting community in any way? I think one thing we didn't really talk about, but that was a question I had, was the perception of other firefighters of people that come out of fire camp that were formerly incarcerated.
Oh, y'all trying to get me in trouble? It's to be real. To be real. You ready for real?
You can be real.
That's one of the issues, honestly. The fire culture is really paramilitary. You know, just like you have a fraternity, can be some hazing involved. And you really got to prove yourself. So when you're considered a person that's been incarcerated, right, is really, you know, especially if they know, like, it can definitely put you in a position where it's a little challenging. And I think, like, that's where, you know, I advise my folks that, you know, go through the program is to talk less about that and really come up and show out of your, you know, your knowledge, skills, and abilities of doing a job. But as you continue to grow into your position, and then as you continue to promote within the ranks, then you can create the culture that you want when it comes to the wildland firefighting force, right? Because that's the thing. In order for you to win and beat anything up, like, you have to like merge and conform into what it is, and then you can be able to really voice the opinion, especially when you get the respect and you get the you know, the reputation within the fire community, right? Because they know, like, all right, this person actually had that background, but also like a real leader in here, and he's serious. Because when you hear an incarcerated firefighter, right, becoming like a true firefighter, is really, you know, it's the stigma thing, right? And that's where I think, like, we got to prove ourselves, and then once we prove ourselves, then we can be able to, you know, really have a voice in the room.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people saying thank you as well. Thank you for your service. Want to make sure you saw that.
Yes.
Please describe how FFRP partners with CAL FIRE and federal entities like Forest Service and Black Lives Matter to find work for those that have graduated. What are the challenges there?
Yeah, so honestly, like, officially, CAL FIRE has been open about, you know, hiring folks that's been incarcerated. So we definitely partner with them. So so in our grant, we're supposed to help like 70 people transition from our career training program, not only just with CAL FIRE, but also with the Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management and all that stuff, right? So that graduate through our program. I think the challenge is like the things that I said earlier around, like, everybody, like, don't have reliable transportation. Sometimes you in rural areas where, you know, with the Forest Service, for example, it's a barracks where it's like in Timbuktu, and, you know, having some they don't have a housing there, like in a local area, so they have to find some housing in a, you know, maybe an hour or two away, and they already have a family, they already paying rent, say in Southern California, right? So it kind of like that kind of like play a big part in when it comes to them being able to get the job, and it's a lot of those type of things. Folks, you know, might have suspended driver's license. It's so many different elements to depending on the individual to be able to get into a place where they can be able to, you know, be transitioned successfully in all aspects of the job, or getting there, or even just, you know, it's the culture. Like I said, the culture is play a big part, and some people get frustrated, and that's where, you know, the mentorship come in with the mental, you know, the mental health, but also the emotional intelligence, right? Because you know, our folks, right? you know, when you say something that's disrespectful, you know what I'm saying, we go snap back. But those are the things that just learning how to be a professional. And sometimes you just gotta ignore people, and just continue to focus on the bag and focus on what you want to do, and make sure you take care of your family.
Yep. Absolutely. This next question says, how did the two of you come together to pitch this session?
Oh man, so actually my PR person, Marissa, shout out to Marissa, she actually pitched South by Southwest, and you know, when the LA fires was going on, they immediately, you know, snatched us up, and then the first person I thought, you know, I had obviously had you in mind, you know, I had a little session with Coleman Domingo, right? I was seeing if he was gonna make it happen, but like I'm like, look, I gotta do it with my bro, man. My bro is he awesome. He actually, you know, once I actually, cause you posted me, and I think that's what really kind of like set things off. You know?
Yeah, we'd made a video together like last year at the TED Fellows Conference where I just interviewed you and you told your story, and I think that video got over 500,000 views on Instagram, and I think got to a lot of the right places, thankfully. And this was, actually I posted it during the fires,
right,
which is I think why it got so much traction. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my guy, man. I told you, it's my bro. He the one who helped us put us on the map, and all it takes is, you know, well, how many seconds was it? 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds to show folks what we've been doing, because we've been in the cut, man, since 2018, and we've been slowly but surely just focused on our work. And you know, me and Brandon, we both dinosaurs. You know, we ain't too familiar with the social media stuff, right? So, but you coming on board, and I remember he's like, hey, Roy, you got got something great going on. Like, you just need to get the social media thing going. And it was just perfect, because I was sweating them on posting something before, like our TED fellow. Like, hey, bro, when you gonna post me? You're like, oh, I got you. And then he just waited a perfect moment, and it was awesome. So, no, I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. It's all about timing. I like this question a lot. Are there similar programs that you know of that focus on an industry other than firefighting?
Honestly, other industry out of prison, sadly to say, I'm not too familiar, honestly. But I know that they have different programs. I know they have a community college kind of program in CDCR. I know, they got different, truck driving stuff, welding, other different trades. But honestly, I've been so much in the work, I just been focused on that. But we have other community-based organizations that I refer folks to, but not really no hands-on of every program and stuff that they have.
Yeah, there's one that comes to mind for me. It's not around anymore, but it was called Freedom House. It was actually the first publicly, EMS ambulance system in the United States, and it was actually staffed by black men that were from inner city. I think it was Philadelphia. I could be wrong on that. Or actually, it might have been Pittsburgh. But one of those cities. And these men actually staffed it and were trained and were individuals that were from the community, maybe were formerly incarcerated, but were actually trained to go to their communities, because at that time, many ambulances would skip over black communities. Because at that time it was mostly police that were actually picking people up in paddy wagons and taking to the hospital. And so what I love about what you're doing, though, and what Freedom House did too, is it specifically served the community. It helped people find ways into sustainable jobs that you could then become an EMT, but then become a nurse afterwards, or a doctor. And it's kind of similar with this, where you're going from fire camp, right, to then becoming actually a part of a fire department somewhere. And so, unfortunately, there aren't that many programs like this out there, so we definitely need more as well.
Absolutely.
Like this question too, how long is the core program for? So the core actually program of when you're training people, and does everyone who complete it transition into professional firefighting? Yeah,
so we have a program, depending on the time of the year, we have an 8-week and a 12-week program. Pretty much the difference is that the 12-week have the opportunity to go out and probably go out to fight wildland fires. So we have a partnership with a contract crew out of Oregon, and we go out in the nation and actually go on fires. And yeah, 90% of our folks that come through our program actually transition from a forestry or fire career. So actually happy to say that. Yeah. And we really particular on folks that, we have a good vetting system, and we really try to figure out, ways and seeing if a person is really serious. Because firefighting is not for everyone. Yeah. So we do have to really evaluate our folks that come through our program. Because, like I said, we have a waiting list of 400 plus people. So it's easy for us to really cherry pick folks and seeing if they real serious, and even put the pressure on other folks. It's like, we only got 25 spots for this cohort, so we got to make sure we pick people that are really serious about it, and I think we do a pretty good job at that.
We only have a few seconds left, but I do want to ask this last question about where we go in the future. So do you have any plans to reach younger audiences or kids to inspire them with your stories?
I think that's one of the next biggest things that I want to do, like to look at the high school population when it comes to student athletes, because I know some kids don't want to go to college, right, but want to have another pathway or opportunity at a good career. And I think that'll really kind of keen in on our women population, right? Because I think with the physical ability, right, that they can have when they out there doing the sports and stuff. My daughter, she's actually in volleyball, so I can see that connection. Hopefully she can be a firefighter one day too. That'd be dope. At least do a couple seasons. That'd be cool. But I think that those folks, I think it'd be perfect segue to show options. Because if they do a 25-year career, they at 47 years or 40 or 43 years old, the benefits of retirement is ridiculous. So that's where definitely the plans on doing that. And we have a pilot program with San Bernardino Community Schools. We're trying to figure out some stuff. So
I always say you can't be what you can't see. I'm going to do a quick plug too. I'm working on an animated TV show right now for kids. So if you're interested in the healthcare aspect of how do we build a workforce just overall that's more diverse, feel free to talk to me about that. But Royal, thank you so much for the incredible work that you're doing. Can we give him a huge hand?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And